And at the end of 6 months, they were finally able to talk to each other, and they started a conversation, and they got to know one another. Now, what is that all about, apart from showing how deficient the English are? It's surely about communication through personal contact, through encounter, if you will. Now, I have an example of this, which is my neighbor. We live near the Alps, in the Alps really, and the edge of France. We live in a little house. No, it's actually quite a big house, but it's divided into flats, and it has its own little piece of land. And so everybody in the house has their own apartment. And the apartment below ours is occupied by a Muslim family from Tunisia. Now, do I know anything about Tunisia? Well, not much. Do I really care about Tunisia? Well, really not much, because I don't know anything about them. I've not really met anybody from Tunisia until I met these people downstairs. Now, they're Muslims. I come from a Christian background, so we should be quite different. But I have to tell you, these are delightful people. I get along with them on the level of humanity extremely well. And that is in spite of the fact that the husband in the family is the chief of the parking authority in the local town, and I often park my car there without putting enough money in the meter to pay for the parking. He's very nice to me about that. When you get personal encounter between people, it changes the whole character of the relationship. Now, you can't do it with everybody. You can't be friends with the 7 billion people who make up the population of the world. And I think if we could, the whole question would be different. But the interlinking, cross-cutting friendships are the things that really bind the world together. And that's why I think we all instinctively know the value of that. And it's why so many organizations go out of their way to create those relationships. We used to live in a village called Saint-Laurent-de-la-Cabrerisse. Sounds very grand. It's a tiny little village in France that makes wine. Well, most villages in France make wine. And this village, I don't know why, at some point in the distant past, the mayor of Saint-Laurent-de-la-Cabrerisse had come up with a brilliant idea of getting together with all of the other villages in France that were called Saint-Laurent, named after the same Christian saint. So every year, all of the mayors would get together. They still do. And they have a big dinner together, all of the mayors of the villages called Saint-Laurent, and they have a great time. And all of the villages in Saint-Laurent, they're all kind of bound together in this little society. Well, it probably doesn't amount to very much except 26 mayors getting drunk every year. But it really does count for something, because it's relationships binding a whole nation together. And I think two things happen when you have these kind of encounters. First of all, a person that you've met personally joins that very select group of people who you would never, ever, ever think of assassinating. You just don't do it. You don't think mean thoughts about somebody that you know, let alone, get into a really big fight with them. The second thing that it does, it opens you up to inspiration, to the opportunity of learning, and to personal education. And that's just such a tremendously valuable thing. And on a personal level, that is part of what makes Loralee and I so privileged and so pleased to be here with you, because we have the opportunity of personal encounter and beginning those kinds of friendships. And we would like to say thank you very much.
Thank you for the patient hearing. If anybody has any question.
I think before we talk about one religion or whatever, we need to go into the reasons for why religions come up. Basically, all animals, including lowest form of animals, they're territorial. They defend their territories for various obvious reasons. When we evolve into human beings, we still do defend our own territories in whatever way we define them. Only thing is, having become thinking animals, we've been able to evolve codes of behavior wherein we don't hurt each other and yet defend our territory, that maybe the family, maybe the job, maybe the community. The purpose of any religion is to give peace of mind to the human beings, because in his conflict-ridden daily life, he needs peace of mind. And one way to get it is religion. If we accept that definition or the need for religion, it does not really matter whether it is one religion or several religions. Akbar tried to bring a fusion of two religions, he didn't succeed. But as quite rightly brought out by Pooja, all religions do insist on being peaceful. It's the interpreters of religion who, for their own purpose, to acquire power, whatever, define various ways of extending their power and say, but because my religion is the best, you have to follow this so that I become more and more and more powerful. It is this we need to curb rather than try and find a universal religion. So we need to start with the basic premise. Do we need a universal religion at all? And if we don't need it, how do we manage the existing religions which are being misinterpreted and misused by people who have got personal interests? That's what I need to say. Thank you.
Someone came and suggested to me that why don't you change your name? It'll be good for you for some reasons. And I was like, oh my God, I want to change my name? Do I want to let go of my name, Pooja Taparia, and change it to Sheila Taparia? Just for example. I had such a huge identity crisis. I was like, no, I don't want to give up my identity. I've been known as Pooja for 34 years, and I'd like to remain Pooja, whatever challenges and difficulties I face according to you with this name. Identity is so important, is so huge, that it's very difficult to do away with it. Are we okay with people calling us human beings? So you're Mr. Human Being, and you're human being, and I'm human being, and I'm your human being, or man, woman, man, woman. Are we okay with that? Are we okay with giving up our names, our identities? Nobody. Today, religion has become identity. It's as similar, as intrinsic to our names. Do we want to give that up? We won't be able to give it up. It's just important to recognize the cohesiveness that is there amongst all. So I am Pooja Taparia, but I'm a woman, I'm a human being. That's why my universality is there. And that's where we need to find it in all religions, that all religions speak about the same thing. They are one. We're just looking at it as face value. So I have a face which makes me look different from somebody else. But that's the only difference. I have the same organs as everybody else. I think that we need to sort of look at it from a more all-pervasive mind rather than on a superfluous, more on a surface sort of a thing, is just my view. Thank you.